My junior year of high school, I always had my EMT class in the morning, and then I would have lifting class second period, and my third period was free, and then fourth I had AP history. And so during that free period, I'd always go to the gas station. I'd grab just whatever, I had 40 minutes, I'd do whatever, and I got a half gallon of chocolate milk. Big thing. It was like the whole milk too. It was like chocolate, whole milk, half a gallon. And I grabbed that thing and I come back. We've got a test to do in like that 40 minutes. My teacher's like, she was a fun teacher. She's like, I'll give you 100% if you finish that. I was like, she's like, before your test is over. And I was like, okay, I will definitely do that. I was like, I'm going to make that happen. And I still tried on the test in case I couldn't finish the thing, but I was drinking it the whole time, like writing answers, drinking milk, and writing answers, drinking milk. And I finished it. She gave me 100%, and I went into my next class. I don't remember what it was. I think it was an English class or something. And in the middle of that class, I was like, wow, I feel like shit right now. And I went into the bathroom and just straight milk.
Jesus Christ.
But that's how you pass the test.
There you go. All right. Welcome to the Joyrides Automotive Podcast. My name is Dalen Marish, and I'm joined here in the studio by my co-hosts, Corey Crispin.
What's up?
And Tony Irvin.
Hello.
This is our introductory episode, so I figured it'd be nice if we did a little bit of introduction, kind of let us know who everybody is, what we do, and whatnot. We'll get into new car news. There's been a lot of that recently, and from there, we'll just kind of take it on an open discussion. So, have any new car news, anything?
The one that we were just talking about today was the what's the new Z car? The
Nissan 400Z.
The 400Z.
And of all of the new cars that have been announced lately, I mean, obviously, nobody cares about the Bronco Sport.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
But the new Bronco is coming. We have the new Land Rover Defender, Ford Lightning, and now the Ford Maverick, I believe is what they're calling it.
Yeah,
Although it's not a car that's this
No, it's
time.
a little pickup.
It's
A
weird.
small pickup.
It's smaller than the
Ranger.
Than the Ranger, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little pickup.
Have you seen this?
I have heard about it. I have
Yeah.
not seen any pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. There were pictures leaked from, I believe, the Mexican plant where they're building it. There were pictures leaked a while ago, and I saw those, and it seems very interesting. But I think of everything that has been announced recently, like in the last, 6 months, I would say the coolest thing is the 400Z.
Yes.
And I really love that weird yellow-green that they announced it in.
Mm-hmm.
That color is so cool. It matches it perfectly. I love that the grille doesn't look like a fish the way it does on the 350 and 370, but rather it kind of goes back to the 240.
Yeah, it resembles the early ones a lot better.
It looks like a 240 modernized, and the 240 is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cars ever made.
It's gorgeous for a cheap sports car. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Those Z cars just drive fantastic too. Mm-hmm. It's like a legit sports car.
Yeah, when you get a good one, it's really well balanced. It's honestly kind of surprising that that's a cheap sports car from the 70s.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of power, but man, do they go.
Mm-hmm.
And do we know yet what the new MSRP is going to be for the 400Z?
Over 40 grand.
Yeah.
Over 40?
Over 40.
So it's not really a cheap sports car anymore? Because
No.
you're getting almost into C8 territory. But that debuted at, 55? Granted, it's been marked up
what's a cheap sports car today, though? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, what does the BRZ in 86 come out at?
Oh, those are expensive.
The new BRZ.
I thought they were somewhere in the 20s.
So they just released the
new
redesign 86. Engine is up. It's a 2.4 instead of a 2-liter. Peak torque is now way down at the bottom of the rev range, whereas before it was way up at the top, which is what made those cars feel super slow, and everybody kind of memed on the cars for it. But now it's way down at the bottom. There's still that torque dip. All the memes about the torque dip.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
It's still there, but because the peak torque is all the way down at the bottom.
Yeah, you can actually use it.
Yeah, from what I've heard in reviews and whatnot, it sounds like it's a much better engine for the car. You can still get a 6-speed manual, 6-speed automatic.
See, and anymore, I would think anything under 30 grand for a sports car would be a pretty cheap sports car.
Yeah, you can get a Miata for under 30 grand.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, back then, granted, there's a little bit of inflation to throw in there, but you had cars that would come out at less than 30 grand that were actually pretty cool for their day. I'd like to cite the Cobalt SS. You could pick those things up from 23 to 26, which granted that's about 30 today, But back then, that was pretty cool. I mean, as long as you were okay with having a terrible interior, the rest of the car was actually pretty interesting.
Everybody had pretty crappy interiors in the
That's
2000s.
true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
even,
not going to...
Even luxury brands had terrible interiors in the 2000s.
But like the Cobalt SS was great because you get the little, you get the 2-door coupe with the turbo, and those are fast and everything. But then you get the sedan, then you have a sleeper.
Yeah, you had...
They offered that as a sedan?
I think it was in 2008 or 2009, you were able to get the 2-liter LNF, which is the it's like an Ecotec variant.
Yeah.
Different bottom end and
With
stuff
the
like
turbo.
that. Yeah, with the turbo, made 265 horsepower and I think 240 pound-feet of torque. I think that's the correct number on that. I mean, you could get that at a decent price, and granted, the sedan is so ugly that nobody would assume that it's fast.
Right.
And it kind of was.
Well, I don't know. The sedan, like, I knew a guy with one in black, and he had some aftermarket wheels and exhaust on it, and it sounded great, and it looked awesome. Tinted windows and headlights, and it just blacked out. It looked pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not like a full-size sedan, so it wasn't similar to like a freaking BMW or Mercedes rolling up, but it was still pretty sporty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were very cool. I had a 2009 Cobalt Sport. So it was the 2.2 liter Eco. It was naturally aspirated, automatic, so not a whole lot of thrills to it. It wasn't an exciting car, but it was black, and the Sport trim level came with the SS appearance package. I had the SS wheels. It still had the factory Pirelli tires on it when I got it. The thing looked amazing. It sounded okay, but it was a dog. But mine was naturally aspirated. I didn't have the cool 2-liter turbo that the SS got.
My first car that I drove was an HHR. I think it was an 07. Yeah.
So the same.
Same
It's
thing,
a Cobalt wagon.
But the HHRs came with a 2.4, which was like another 20 horsepower. Which not that it really mattered a whole lot. But
it's a terrible engine. I just want to put that out there. I have blown one up. I just, knowing these motors, because I've raced them for the last 4 or 5 years now, it's the 2-liter are the good ones.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But they're like, because they didn't come stock in too many cars, they're pretty illegal throughout like this racing division, unless you have like one of the open motor divisions where you can run whatever. And in that case, run a 2-liter, but everyone else runs the 2.2 Ecotec. Those things are incredibly robust. The one that I actually just swapped out had 7 seasons on it without a rebuild.
Jesus.
So that's probably 100 nights of racing, and it was okay.
See, but like as far as like just a street car, where you're not going to beat the crap. Okay, it's an HHR. It got beat up quite a bit. But
it's supposed to. It's
I don't know if I've ever seen an HHR that didn't have at least one headlight missing, a lot of rust.
It's supposed to
shit
have rust.
falling
It's an
off.
this one had a
HHR.
massive dent right on the rear quarter. And I say had, but we still have it. So it has a massive dent right on the rear quarter.
Why don't you ever drive it?
Because if I'm going to drive anything, I'm going to drive my WRX.
Yeah.
But like, okay. So our HHR, it has gone through one engine, but that's because my brother hit a rut in my neighbor's driveway and broke the oil pan. And it drained all the oil, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just drive it home." And yeah, there's the first engine. And then last summer, I was driving it in Kansas City, and there was something in the middle of the road, and it was like 6 a.m. I'm like, I'm not going around this. I thought it was a cardboard box. It was a cinder block, and it hit the transmission pan.
Oh my god!
Yeah, talk about a fucking terrible day.
Right,
And-
just an HHR doing what they're supposed to do.
Right. Get destroyed by the road. Anyways, it took out the transmission oil pan, and I'm like, okay, I'm a mile from my home. We'll tow
Drive
it
it
home.
home.
Okay. We weren't that ballsy.
Drive it home, Tony.
But we towed it home, and taking the pan off, there's a chunk of the transmission broke off, like, a couple inches. Not too big of a deal. Just Dremel it down a little bit, JB weld it back on there, put a little bit of JB weld on there, sand it down, and then it still drives today. Yeah, it leaks like a sieve.
It still drives.
Just spray it with a bunch of Flex Seal and move on.
Yep. Anyways, let's get back to the 400Z.
We kind of
went off the rails there.
Yeah.
400Z. Did you see the prototype? How it was just like a big open box for the grill.
Yeah, and honestly,
It's kind of weird.
I don't think. Well, I mean, maybe it's possible, but with, there's so many bumper laws, pedestrian laws, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's what the actual grill is going to look like when it
No, so
debuts.
production car has. I'll pull it up here, but the production car has a bunch of little like not ovals, but like rounded off squares, I guess. Actually, it's
just kind of like rubber.
It's funny. I open Instagram and the first thing that pops up is the 400Z.
But it listens to you,
right?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I got my COVID shot, so Bill Gates is going to listen to this too. Yeah, I heard that the 400Z is going to come with a twin turbo V6.
I have also heard that
slick.
rumor, and I hope it's true.
Yes, I know.
I'll just pull up Nissan's website.
Which I guess Nissan, it'd be similar to a GTR setup, I would imagine. With the
Which
twin
then
turbos
makes you wonder what's the point of the GTR.
Right.
Which then makes you wonder, when are we going to get a GTR that's not from 2007?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you came out with it 15 years ago. Why are you still selling it? That's what Pontiac does.
Twin turbo V6 and standard with a 6-speed manual.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
That would be a really cool car, and that's what I've said is like that is probably the coolest. At least in my opinion, that is the most interesting like new car.
Oh, for sure.
Prototype kind
definitely.
of thing that's coming
For
out.
sure.
And like I said, I absolutely love that color on there. That kind of it's like a lime green, but a little bit of like Mountain Dew piss kind of color in there. I think it's really awesome.
They also had that really cool light blue that they launched beside that yellow color.
See, I think the light blues are kind of a hard color to find a good car for. Mm-hmm. It definitely looks good on the Bentley and everything.
Every car from the 90s looks good in light blue.
Every
with
car
like
is made of
stripes
plastic.
with like stripes and shit on the
Yeah,
side.
like
Yeah.
just a decal pinstripe on the side.
It
It's
looks like a
peeling off
solo
halfway.
cup, like a you know what I'm talking about, like the
Oh, like
the
it
white
from,
ones with
like
the
a
blue
bowling
scribble
alley.
on it.
yeah, like the there's like the Ford Ranger Splash, I think. Was
Yep.
one.
Oh,
yep.
my
And you just know it's gonna smell like a bowling alley on
Yeah.
the inside.
Okay, speaking of like Ford Rangers and paint jobs, there is somebody in Mount Vernon who drives, or at least there was. It was I'm trying to think. Either like a late 90s, early 2000s Ford Ranger. It's dark green, and from end to end, there's a dragon painted on it. Like full in
Why?
detail. It's not like a cartoon dragon, like a full-on airbrush dragon.
What's the dragon doing?
It breathing fire. What else is it gonna do?
Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Is there somebody fighting the dragon?
No, that
No,
would-
you need to. You need to go. Do you know how to airbrush? You need to go airbrush somebody fighting the
I
dragon.
have an airbrush. I'm not an artist.
Oh, okay.
I can
Or
airbrush some
you
stick
airbrush
figures.
onto the side of your car like a guy with a sword, and then you run into the
Yeah,
Ranger
you just
with
T-bone the guy.
See, I'd hate to do that because I want that Ranger.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine it's still around because Rangers, but like I want it for the dragon.
Oh, definitely. And
Yeah.
that makes me remember that I drove by a car in town the other day. They had flames on it. You know how people do flames on their car, like the old Jeff Gordon style where you got flames, except this guy didn't do it on the front. They were on the quarter panels coming like off the rear wheels.
Oh my
Like
lord, boomer!
that's like why? I've never seen that done before. It didn't look good either. Whatever you're picturing in your head is looking good. It wasn't that. It looks stupid.
I'm picturing PT Cruiser crowd.
Yeah.
PT Cruiser modifying people. The PT Cruiser crowd. They're just the
I swear,
strangest.
Have you ever
if
seen
you
that
wanna
picture
find
of like 6 in some guy's driveway? He has like 6 PT Cruisers, and they're all different colors. Some of them have the
my
wood.
lord.
I was gonna say, if you want to see a really nice modded out PT Cruiser, you will always find one in a strip club parking lot.
Oh,
Oh, I guarantee it.
Well,
Anytime you pull up to the titter, there's gonna be one sitting out there with aftermarket wheels on it and stuff.
okay. I've seen there was a car show in the meth head town next to where I went to school, and there was a PT Cruiser there. It was black, it had blue flames on it, and it was a full Fox body Mustang drivetrain underneath it. Rear wheel
That
drive.
would be awesome.
What? You put like $30,000 worth of work into this PT
Yeah.
Cruiser.
And it's still got a quarter mile time of 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, there's nothing you can do to make it faster than that, except for the guy who has the Hemi in the back of one.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
it does like a quarter mile wheel stand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd definitely be awesome. And that kind of makes me wonder, what would be the coolest swap out there that you could do? I mean, we could do a full episode on that, but just right off the top of your head, think of a
swaps.
cool swap.
Swaps.
One of them that I've always wanted to do, but I don't have the money to do, is get a
There's a
BMW
lot of
Isetta. Those things are awesome.
Yeah, the perfect car.
Except they are the perfect car. It's got a
Why do you two
refrigerator
agree on
door
this?
handle.
Okay.
Why do you two agree?
Okay, let's be honest. Like you said, it looks like a refrigerator, and you could park it anywhere.
They were made by a refrigerator company. They were made by
BMW?
ISA, which was
okay,
a
that makes sense.
Italian, I believe, refrigerator company, and that's why the front door opens like a fridge. It was almost as if they said, "Oh, hey, like, you know, BMW wants this car made. We kind of need to design some body elements." And they were like, "Well, we have a door in the factory. Just make some hinges that line up with it or something. We'll
This
just
is
put
the
it right on the
cheapest
front."
way to do it.
If I remember correctly, I think BMW bought the design from ISA or
Yeah,
is it
ISA.
ISA?
Yeah.
I think they bought the design because they needed it to make a car. You know, they were making motorcycles after World War II.
Yeah.
Roads were getting better. People wanted cars. So they were like, hey, you know, we'll make a bubble car, a little micro car.
Yeah, and it was under this. There was some law in Europe at the time. I can't cite it perfectly off the top of my head, but there was something that if either your car was under a certain size or under a certain displacement or something, it classified as a motorcycle.
Well, yeah, because that one was just 600 cc's or something like that, wasn't it?
It was 250 cc
Oh,
and
way
made 12
lower.
horsepower, but you could get the Isetta 300, which was a 300 cc that made 13 horsepower. You could pay extra for 1 horsepower, but what
like
I think would be
$2.
cool, yeah, it's like a $6 charge.
Why wouldn't you do that?
No, but
At that time, it's like 5 million Deutschmarks.
Oh, yeah.
just something that you can't even afford. You have to. You live in East Berlin. You have to like get it over the wall somehow, and you're just
You have to like
"I want
shoot
the
your neighbor
Isetta."
for bread, and now you're like, I got to go buy a car.
My options here are Trabant or Isetta. What am I going?
Oh my god!
Do I order a Trabant and I wait 10 years for a car to show up that doesn't have a glove box? Or do I buy a refrigerator with a 300cc engine in the back? But anyway, you know what would be cool? It's like a GSX-R 1000 engine in the back.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, just take like one of those ridiculous motorcycle engines
Yeah.
and put that in the back of an Isetta.
Like a-
Granted, you'll probably get killed while driving it, but it would be so cool for those 5 seconds.
Like
Yeah.
a ZX6R, 150 horsepower.
In this,
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
In the same vein, I've always thought it'd be really cool to make my own body that kind of
Oh, yeah.
resembles like an old school like Formula One car and put some motorcycle engine in it because it
That
just
would be
revs to the
awesome.
moon and yeah.
So basically, you want to build a Formula 4 car
Yeah.
is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
that's-
use a 1.6 liter, I believe. It's a Honda inline 4
Hmm.
is what is powered. Like, I mean, that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are very lightweight. They make like 150 horsepower or something like that, but
Yeah.
they hardly weigh anything. And, you know, we've seen those things in person. They're cool. I don't know. Maybe
guys
make
know how
some
to
molds and all
mold-
fiberglass.
Either fiberglass, I was gonna say.
I would
Tony
just
knows
do
how to work
fiberglass.
English wheel, right?
Oh my lord, it's not very good. It
Well,
won't
I
look
can do
anything
fiberglass
like-
pretty well.
We'll make a
so-
I would
magnesium
do-
body.
See, I
There
really
we go.
want.
Imagine that thing on fire.
Oh,
What about
my
carbon?
lord.
Carbon fiber. We could do
Oh, yeah,
carbon
you know,
fiber.
that's cheap.
Yeah, right.
See, I really want a Formula V car, similar setup.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, but just Volkswagen drivetrain in the back, super easy to work on. However, and I have a picture here somewhere, but I'm gonna have to find it.
What if you just took like a Beetle and just put a Formula body on it, or just took everything off and just made some sort
So
of
you just
open
make a
wheel body?
Myers Manx but formula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with that is that with the Formula V, you switch the transaxle around, so then you put the engine right behind you, and then you just sit right in the middle.
Okay.
Which a lot of people will do the, kit cars and shit. You take the Bug chassis and you just put like a Porsche 550 Spider body on it, which is
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of
fantastic.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those Beck Spider kits are really cool.
Yeah.
You could be like every crackhead in Florida and just start putting fiberglass and whatever else you can find on a Fiero.
Oh yeah.
That's just what they do. It's like they get bored and it's like, a bunch of alligators in the backyard. I can't go back there, so I'm going to spend the day in the garage. And next thing you know, you have a Lamborghini, Porsche, Ferrari, Fiero.
Okay. Only thing better than that is the people who put cardboard mods on their HHR.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Or the people that have like, oh, I'm going to get a Mazda Protege and I'm going to put a huge cardboard wing on the back.
Yeah. So going to the like whole swap thing, perfect swap engine for something like that is there is a company, and I believe they put these in the Radicals. I don't know if you ever see the Radical car, the British or whatever.
Radical RX-8 or something.
Something
Or
like-
R8.
SR8, I
Something
think.
like that.
Something like that. I've definitely seen these. It's a there's actually a Cup racing series over these.
It's like
it's a spec
it's a track
series.
car.
Yeah,
yeah.
They're super cool.
So they use a Hayabusa-based V8, and it's like,
Wait, what?
okay, look it up.
all right.
Is it reliable?
No, they said that if
Let's
they
race
said
with
that
something
if
that'll break
you're
on lap 2.
so it's not a 90-degree V, it's a 72-degree V, and they said that they use a 72 degree so that way for packaging. And because of that, it's so unbalanced that if you sit at like 6,000 RPM or something, it'll just shake itself to death.
That's honestly awesome because you're racing. It's not like you'll ever be at $6,000 or anything.
Right. But if you get one of these engines in the twin turbo variant, and it's like 3 liters or something, it's like 500 horsepower at 10,000 RPM, which is like
That's sweet.
fucking perfect. And it's set up for in a car, like a longitudinal setup. So you put it on a transaxle and you put something like that in like a Formula car,
Yeah.
it'll fucking fly.
That'd be amazing.
That's sweet. Tony, weren't you telling me about some other engine that's okay, yeah.
Okay. And I don't remember the name of this company, but there's a company in Britain that's making a V10 swap for Miatas. And it's a 2-liter V10, makes 200 horsepower at 13,000 RPM.
That thing probably screams.
Oh, yeah. And it's,
you need like a straight pipe out of that thing. You would be the most annoying Miata on your block.
Yes.
Like, there's no doubt.
And Miatas are already pretty annoying.
Yeah, imagine like you hear an Indy car outside. So you're like, that sounds awesome. You look outside and you see a dude drive by with his pop-ups up.
his NA Miata.
You said it was a
He
2-liter
wings
It's got a
V10?
tear in the top.
It's a 2-liter V10, and it's not a normal V. It's like the, what's that fucking...
Like the W8.
Yeah, like where the W has the shared head. I can't think of it. The VR6. It's like a VR6, but a V10.
Okay.
Where it shares one head. So it looks like a straight 10 or whatever the fuck. It looks like a straight 5, inline 5.
Is it a 22.5 degree V10?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find it?
Yeah, I did.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to look this up. I'm going to play this video and listen to it when I get home.
I'm sure the engine's like fucking 20 grand or something.
for
but
sure.
Still, that with twin turbos, which they're talking about, 250 horsepower, which is not a lot, but at 13,000 RPM, it's moving.
It'd be nuts.
Yeah.
I'm doing an engine swap right now. You guys already know about
Yep.
this. But Miata 1.6 into a MGB, which I was telling Corey about this. When I was looking up numbers and kind of investigating this and figuring out what's what, I was looking at, what the MGB made for power, and it was like 96 horsepower or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Miata 1.6 is supposed to make like 115. So I was like, okay, that's a decent bump, whatever. But then I was looking into it, and, my car is from the 70s. And so by the time they decreased compression and put cats on and all this stuff,
Right.
the MGB was making like 60 horsepower. So I'm going from 60 to 115, which should help that car out.
And take out all the parts you don't need. I mean,
I'm saving
yeah.
100 pounds of weight too with the engine.
Yeah, because
did the
aluminum.
okay? So you have a 73 MGB. Did those have?
Mine's a 78.
Okay, I thought it was a 73. By 78, I'm sure those had power steering, didn't they? Or did they
No.
simply ignore it?
I don't think
Nope.
they need it. They're so
Because
light. in the
I know
front.
that you are manual steering. I wasn't sure if you got rid of any sort of power steering assist or anything like that.
It's a manual rack. When I get the engine put back together, I'll just have rollers on the power steering and the AC.
What did,
Okay.
what did those cars weigh? Just factory weight.
2,030 pounds.
Yeah. So
Wow, so
You'll-
that's light.
so you'll be under 2,000 with the engine. Is that right?
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
remember the number.
Well,
It
you said.
really
add
should be.
fuel myself.
Yeah, it
Is
doesn't
2030
matter.
your dry weight?
2030 is, that's the curb weight.
And you are putting factory seats in it once you find them? Because I know right now you have Honda Civic seats sitting in it.
Well, so I have
perfect
I have
seat?
actual seats. No, they sit way
perfect
too
seat.
high. They're way too high.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous in there. It looks like an SUV seat in comparison. 'Cause it takes up the entire car.
So I have 2 sets of MGB seats.
Oh yeah,
They're
I
torn and
actually
the
helped
foam.
them.
The foams are terrible, so I'm gonna have to get new foam and new leather. But shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's places in town you can get that done. Guys, so
I plan on just doing it. You can get all that stuff off of Moss Motors.
Oh,
Yeah,
so you'll just do it yourself.
Yeah.
If you just get the skins, they're not hard to put on.
No.
I've actually installed seat skins before. It's not terrible. Granted, that was on a much newer car, so who knows?
Well,
who
so
knows how they
on the
compare.
seat, it's literally just it's a metal frame. You put the foam on, and then you put the skins over the foam. It's really not
So,
like
pretty
it's
easy.
not,
not a
it's
lot
not going
to
to be
that
super complex.
process.
I mean, it's a manual seat. It's not like it has any sensors or
no
anything.
airbags
No.
or
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay. So it shouldn't be terrible. We should be able to do that.
Sensors. I never I'm used to the old cars. I'm like, fucking sensors.
Yeah.
The newest thing I have owned is 2009.
Yeah.
And so it's like anytime I go to work on something, it's always like pretty old stuff. And it's weird that I'm finding like weird broken sensors in my BMW. You know, it's an 89 325i. It's, you know, the E30 chassis.
So it's got sensors that are really important, but you're like, what does this control?
Well, I noticed that there were sensors coming off of the seat belts, like the seatbelt buckles. So obviously it knows when your seatbelt is plugged in. However, I found nothing. That was the female end coming off of there. I found no male end whatsoever. And there's no light on the dash for a seatbelt warning. So obviously these seats aren't correct to the car. I know that they are the seats that came in it because I've looked up, you know, like all the options on the car. You know, I've kind of tracked like the VIN and everything like that.
So
And
you
then-
had sport seats originally.
yeah, so it has the sports seats. The color is correct. I know that they've been reupholstered because the fronts don't match the rears entirely. There's like a little bit of difference. You can feel it with your hand and see it with your eyes if you look carefully. Maybe not if you're Tony, but I can tell. I can tell the difference. Yeah, I don't think the seatbelt buckles are correct because those go nowhere. There's a different plug that comes out from underneath the carpet there. And when I had the carpet up, I found it and I traced it back. And I'm not sure what it is. I mean, it's nothing even close to what the seatbelt thing is. Like the sensors aren't even close to plugging in. They're completely different harnesses and stuff. But I'm almost wondering if the car originally had heated seats or they were installed at some point, because I know that seems absurd for being 89, but you could get the sports seats heated. That was a thing. It was out by then.
Where was the
don't
car
remember.
sold new?
It was sold in San Diego, California.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I
heated
don't know if
seats.
it's gonna have heated seats.
Heated
I
seats,
don't know.
probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I've been kind of tracking some things around. You know, I've found so many different interesting things in this car. I found 5 wasps' nests during disassembly. You know,
course.
1 in the fender, 1 on top of the fuel pump, 2 in the rear bumper, 1 behind the gauge cluster. Like
Well-
literally in the dash. I don't know how a wasp even managed to get in there or if
Right.
it was comfortable, but that's where he chose to live.
Well, at least you're not finding pubes in your Subaru like I am.
What? Oh, you
I
told me
you
about this.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, yo,
And then,
pubes in the Subaru, that's the
'cause
worst.
Taking the shifter out, I put a short throw shifter in there, and then I was watching Mighty Car Mods. They had the same thing. Taking the short throw shifter out, and there's fucking pubes in there. So apparently, there's some Japanese guy who's like plucking his pubes in Subarus.
Just a guy in the factory that just like every now and then he goes over to the production line. He's like,
It's-
"Hey, watch this."
He's like, it's better doing it here than at home because at home I have to clean it up.
Yep, just drop him put the shift boot on.
Well, and like mine to the one in the video was like a 4-year difference. So it's like the same guy. He goes, "I've done this before."
Yeah, he
Oh,
just
my Lord.
anytime, you know, just like once a month. Hey, check this out.
It's whenever
Throws
he's
them
showing
on.
off to the new guy.
Yeah,
I don't
anytime
give
they
a
hire
fuck.
a new guy, he says, "This is what you're supposed to do." And before you know it, as people get replaced and more people believe it, the entire factory is shaving pubes into their Subarus.
See, no wonder they're switching to robots.
Robots don't have pubes.
Robots don't have pubes.
That's an
yet.
album
Yet.
name.
there we go.
Robots don't have pubes. That's an album name.
Oh,
That sounds
God.
like it sounds like an album from one of those bands that you don't want to listen to, but it just kind of shows up on your Spotify, and you're like, whatever, I'll give it a try. And then before you know it, your ears hurt.
You know what song? Apple Music does like the thing where as soon as you're done listening to a song, if you don't have anything queued up next, they'll suggest stuff for you. And it'll play it.
Spotify does that too.
For
if you have it on.
For some reason, and I don't know why, but it doesn't matter what song I'm listening to. I could be listening to hard rock. I could be listening to jazz. I could be listening to classical. For some reason, at any moment, my phone thinks I really want to listen to Stone in Love by Journey.
That is an amazing song. I wouldn't even complain
No,
about
I'm not
it.
complaining. It's a great song, but it's just weird that after any song, it doesn't matter what I'm
It
listening
just
to.
wants to play that.
Yeah.
Like, we know you. We know what you're gonna.
And it's
I was
funny
like-
because I haven't listened to that song in like years. So now it's like my phone's trying to pressure me into it.
It's like, hey, you forgot about this. A couple of years ago, I got the Spotify Wrapped thing at the end of the year, and one of the songs that it told me I'd listen to the most, it was like my 30th most played song, was "Cumbersome" by 7 Mary 3, and I was like, what? I was like, I don't think I've listened to this song at all this year. I was like, how did that even?
Maybe you
Granted,
just
I
listened to it a
more-
ton in January and forgot by December.
I mean,
I only listen to
it's
Cumbersome
completely
in January.
possible. All of January, I'm just singing along. I'm like, this is the coolest song ever. And then by December, I didn't know it existed.
It's like those songs that you're like, man, this is really good, and you play it over and over and over again. And then next thing you know, it's like you played this song 200 times last month. You're like,
And then you hate the song.
Yeah.
That was me with every Bad Religion song. My first year of college, I only listened to Bad Religion. And now anytime one of their songs comes on, I'm like, I need to skip this.
Well, see, it's perfect because not only do you listen to it enough that you hate it, but you listen to it enough that your Spotify thinks, you know, he really likes this song.
And
I'm
then
going
it
to play
keeps
it
giving
more.
it to you. Yeah. Tony, you mentioned earlier that your first car was an HHR. You kind of
Yes.
shared some stories on that. So I'm going to go to a story with my first car. And Dalen, maybe you have one queued up for your first car that I remember riding around in and doing a neutral drop in once.
I'll think of something. I think I know what your story is.
I hope it's better
so-
than Jake's neutral drop the other day.
Oh, way better.
Okay, good.
Well, my first car was a 2001 Pontiac Bonneville.
Good.
This thing was
The
bought.
3800?
Yes,
Supercharged?
3800. It was not supercharged. It was the naturally aspirated one. It was the SE model, so very basic. But it was very cool because it had a bench seat in the front, but it was like a 60-40 bench where there was like a small split.
Yeah.
But the center console was attached to the driver's seat, so this thing having 0 options on it. They came factory with like memory seats and stuff like that and power seats, and it was awesome. And if you adjusted the seat, the center console went with you. Mm-hmm. So it just tilts around with you. So it was always there. Your arm was never uncomfortable.
What year was that?
2001.
Oh, okay.
And it was amazing because it also had the thing where nowadays they're all blown out and broken. And mine worked for a little bit before it broke. But it had a thing where when you open the trunk, there was like an air jack option. I don't remember exactly what they called it. But it was essentially airbags. You'd open the trunk and the trunk would lower for you. Like the back of the car would lower so that you can load stuff into it easier. And they did the same thing on the Buick Park Avenue, I believe is what it was.
Yep.
And now anytime you see one of those GM cars from that era driving down the road, the rear end's bouncing around, the exhaust hitting the ground, it's throwing sparks, and you wonder what's happening. Well, it's because all those systems have failed by now, but mine
Right.
worked for a little bit. My dad bought this car for $600. It had, I think, 160,000 miles on it when he bought it.
Just broken in.
Yep. It actually, original engine transmission that neither of them ever got any work done except for spark plug changes probably twice and oil changes, obviously. This thing was still running except the rear subframe rusted out and literally the back of the car hit the ground. It gave up from rust at 289K.
Oh, my
And we had not
Lord.
changed anything on it aside from like a $40 coil. That was the only thing that got swapped in its entire life. I had a fun time driving this thing. It was my sophomore year of high school. It was middle of December, and I had never driven in snow before, and we had just replaced the front tires, but the rear tires were basically bald. This was the day of my final, and I had a final that started at 9 o'clock, and I'm trying to get to class. It's snowing for the first time on that day. I left for school late. I'm like, I still need to get to school. I'll figure it out. I'm going to drive on snow for the first time. I'm like 15 years old. Driving, and I come into the parking lot, and there's like this long, like drawn out 90-degree left-hander. And it was like not very slow. I mean, the speed limit said 25, but realistically, if you're a high schooler, you do 45 around it. Well, it's snowy out, so I'm only doing 40. And so I'm going around
Playing
the
it
corner.
safe.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm taking it easy.
Yeah.
And I'm going around the corner, and the ass end of the car, old tires, just completely skates out. It absolutely leaves me. It's like heading towards the ditch, and I counter steer it back the other way, and I crossed the center line and looped it, and I had the car just about straightened out, and then it started tilting to go driver's side into the snowbank, so I whipped it back the other way, brought it back, and almost drifted the whole corner. And then I was not a very experienced driver, by the way, and back then, and now I'm kind of whipping it back the other way. I'm counter steering back to the right, and I spin the car around, and I throw it driver's door first right into the snowbank.
Yeah.
And just bury the car. And it was completely off the road. And this happened like right outside of my classroom. And I look at the clock, and it's 8:58. My final starts at 9. I got to get to class. And so I looked around to figure out where my book bag had flown to, and it was like against one of the doors in the back seat. And I grab the thing, I throw it on, and I climb out the passenger side of the car, and I run through the snow, go through the side door to the school, sit down in class right at 9 o'clock. Yeah, I mean, I made it to my final on time, and the car was just buried in there.
Did you chug a gallon of milk at your final?
I did not. I didn't have time to stop and
Oh,
get a gallon of
man.
milk. I wish I did. But yeah, I took my final. I don't remember how it went. I don't really care. But
It
got the
doesn't
final
matter.
done, and I walked back out of my class at the end, and I'm in the hallway, and I see the principal of the school is standing there in the doorway, and he's looking out. You know, it's a glass door, and he's looking out at the car out there. And I'm walking back out there because that was the only class I had. So I was going to go back out there and figure out how do I get this thing back out. And as I'm walking back out there, the principal sees me walking by. And he stops me. He's like, "Hey, that's your car, isn't it?" I was like, "Yep." He said, "How the hell did you do that?" I was like, "I was running late." And I said, "I'm going to be honest. I was speeding around the corner, but it's okay. I'll get the thing out of there." He's like, "All right, if you can get it out, it's not a problem." I was like, "Cool." And I went out there. It was completely stuck. I was like, "Oh, no, this isn't good." So
COVID.
you have COVID.
Yeah, sorry guys, you're fucked.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we're in a small room.
Small room, closed door.
Yeah.
I don't see any vents really.
Yeah, no, you guys are fucked. You might want to get tested.
So I had to call my dad, and that sucked, you know. And he was like, "I see exactly what you did." He's like, "You need to slow down." And I was like, "It's my first time driving on snow. I think I did okay. I made it, you know, the 12 miles here, and I screwed it up in the last 100 feet. I mean, I was like, I did fine." And it was completely stuck. I couldn't get it out. He ended up kind of digging at some of the snow and just driving back and forth, literally just running into the snowbanks. He'd smash the snowbank with the front of the car, smash the snowbank with the back of the car, and he just rocked it back and forth, just hitting the snow.
Doesn't your dad have like a 3/4 ton Ram?
Like he's going to use it. It's a Ram. Ram owners don't use their Ram. They just
That's
drive around
true.
in it. But yeah.
You just tell people you're better than everyone else.
Just drive around with the tow mirrors out and look big. No, he just ran into the snowbanks repeatedly and eventually got it out. I went home, and I've never had a on-the-street incident since then. I mean, I've never gotten pulled over. I've never gotten a ticket or anything like that. So that is my one, like, driving off the road incident, and I'm a lot better driver nowadays, but I like looking back at it and laughing. And I miss that car, and honestly, I'm stupid enough to buy another Bonneville. Even though like I don't have room for one, I don't have a use for Bonneville either. I kind of want one again. So
Buddy of mine had a Park Avenue Ultra with a supercharger. I can't think of a more fantastic car for $1,500.
Oh,
that
yeah.
is the same car as the Bonneville.
Yeah, and it's like
Small differences here and there, but it's pretty much the same thing. And honestly, they are great.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
great cars.
Well, then I don't know about the NA cars, but his was supercharged, and I was driving it back from Kansas City one day, and it's like on the highway, you're going 110, the speedometer's maxed out, and it's still going. And for a full-size sedan with a V6, like
So I had the 01 Bonneville 3800 naturally aspirated, and when that thing died, I wanted another one, but I moved on to a Cobalt, and then eventually a G8, and then another G8, and then another G8. But at the same time,
G8 problem.
It really is. I actually went and test drove a supercharged Bonneville because I wanted a winter car, and they wanted $3,000 for this thing, 80,000 miles. It was black. It was
honestly,
supercharged.
Like, considering that it's going to go like another 300,000,
Yeah.
that's not a bad deal.
And it had basically no rust. They all rust around the gas cap. This did not show. It had like a little bit on the subframe, but whatever. I can get over that.
Yeah.
Somebody ended up buying it before me. Some guy bought it for his son, and you know, whatever. That kid will enjoy it. But I test drove that thing, and it had the heads-up display too. You know, super cool.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh,
I think
man.
this one was a 2002, which would have matched my 2002 Trans Am.
There you
Oh,
go.
there we
They were
go.
both black. They both had ridiculous fog lights in the bumper. Those huge ones. I test drove this Bonneville, and this was the supercharged one, and I was so used to the naturally aspirated one, so
Yeah.
I wanted to feel the difference of this thing. And it's a low mile car, and I thought this thing was going to be wicked, and I laid the pedal down. The supercharger does nothing compared to the NA one. At least in this case, it could have been a very tired supercharger. The pulley could have been bad, you know, whatever.
So, yeah.
But I could not tell a difference. And I think I have a fairly decent ass dyno.
One of my friends explained this to me once. There's a thing in the 3800 supercharger that's like a vacuum bullshit thing that basically lets off boost at low end, so that way you don't do burnouts and shit. And like there's a way that you can just zip tie that shut and just have full boost at low end.
Zip tie.
Yeah.
Imagine throwing a zip tie on a car and getting like 15 more horsepower.
Okay. what is a better way to modify like a $2,000 supercharged Buick than just a zip tie?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, say,
And-
I bought a 20-year-old Pontiac, and this zip tie is gonna add some horsepower.
And on top of that, it's a fucking couch. Like it's two couches
Yeah.
on
and they're
wheels.
Yeah, so
comfortable.
comfy.
Oh my Lord, they're perfect. His had the thing, you were talking about the trunk. His had the thing where when you close the trunk, you just kind of set it down and then it pulls itself down.
Mine had that.
Yeah.
You'd set it down, and it would stop like 2 inches before it actually latched, and then it would calmly close.
Yes.
And our 2006 Toyota Sienna does the same thing.
See, there's a lot of new cars that have that, but it amazes me that like, because his was a 97.
Pontiac and
Yeah, like-
Buick were like, I mean, I'm biased. I'm a Pontiac fan, but Pontiac and Buick were both like amazing in the 90s and
Oh,
early
yeah.
2000s. They had some stuff.
Don't sleep on Oldsmobile.
Olds was great too, honestly. Well, it's the same thing,
Well,
but
Yeah.
and Cadillac and stuff like that. Although Cadillac's a little bit more sketchy.
North Star.
North Star is exactly what comes to mind. They're not terrible, but I mean, like the Cadillac Alante, not an amazing car, but they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
But Pontiac and Buick, I feel, are really slept on, mostly because they're more of a grandma like luxury
Well,
car.
they never
but-
really had like a V8 car, which is like they were going into
Yeah.
more of the
They did
newer
the-
style of.
They did the Bonneville GXP, and those things had a North Star, unfortunately, and they were kind of known for just breaking. They would make it to like, I mean, if you go on Facebook Marketplace and look for Bonneville GXPs, they're like all at 110,000 miles because nobody wants to take them past that.
Well, it's because every other one's in a junkyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just go and then they blow up, and then every guy with the SSEI, which was a supercharged Bonneville, just buys all the GXP parts. That's how it goes.
Okay, here's the good thing about those North Star, whatever, Cadillacs and Oldsmobiles. So the supercharged 3800 cars, they all had a front-wheel drive variant of the 4L60. So it was a 4T60 transverse. Well, the North Stars came with a 4T80. And the problem with the supercharged V6 cars is they'd all blow out the transmission, like 150,000
Yep.
miles.
And
Yep. And then you swap over the 4T80.
the 4T60s were terrible, and there's actually a guy that'll take the LS4 and pair it to the 4T60, and so people have,
the
people
LS4 King
have
is what he
Grand
is.
Prix and Bonneville GXPs except reliable, because
Yeah.
if you got a GXP, say it's 2005 and you go to the Pontiac dealership and you're offered either V8 Bonneville or V8 Grand Prix. You want a V8 sedan.
Yeah.
You either got to choose, does the motor blow up at 120 or does the transmission blow up at 120? Because neither of them would really make it past that. They each had their flaw, but there's like a guy, and I think he's kind of a company that pairs them. You take the more reliable of the two, or you could be really cool and put a 4T60 on a North Star and see which one dies first.
That would be a cool test.
There you go. That's
But-
a good one.
Maybe we do need to do an introduction with all our cars after this.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so my first car was a Honda Civic. It was nothing special. It was a 2004 LX automatic. I mean, when I say, I'm a car guy, I had a Civic back then. People are like, oh, is it an SI? Is it a hatch? What is it? Nope. It's a four-door sedan with an automatic transmission.
How many $1,000 was it?
It was
3?
it was $3,000.
Oh, okay, so it's pretty nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
It was okay.
I thought it was a pretty decent car.
Yeah, I mean for like a first car, it was perfectly fine.
I remember
Yeah.
I was riding with you, and at one time we were going to the gas station, and I was like looking back and forth, and I'm like, how come the driver's side door panel is different than the passenger side door panel? Like the interior handles were different. Like that was like factory. It wasn't like a mismatch, but like it was factory. They made them like differently
What?
because of the window switches.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
didn't know that, and I saw you look back and forth at them a little bit, and then you said, "What the hell? They're
Yeah,
different."
yeah, they're like completely different
They're
design.
different design, yeah. And that was just
Because
how
there's
it was.
4 window switches on my side. There's only one over there.
Yeah,
and
and
I
the
guess
four-
they
Oh, yeah, I
they were
guess that
like
makes sense.
they were
The
like,
four
why
window
would we make
switches-
2 really big handles over there when we could just
Right.
make
Well,
one
what
each?
they did is the 4 window switches on the driver's side were on like a flat plane like they are, and
Yeah.
then you had just like the handle part that was normal. But on the passenger side, it was flat across there, and then when the handle went up, at the very top was the window switch. It was at the very top of the
Weird.
handle, and it was like I've seen that done on some cars, but I've never seen a car that says, yeah, one
One
of the doors
side's
it's going to be
different.
like this, but on the other door we're going to do it like this. It was almost as if like there was an argument at the factory of which one was better.
It was probably an afterthought because they started making that generation like 2001,
And it was probably all manual
They're
window?
probably all crank windows. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it definitely could be an afterthought.
Well, it's like Dodge Neons where they never came with power windows in the back.
yeah, just in the front. You had power
I remember
window in the
that,
front,
yeah.
manual in the back.
I don't even know if the SRTs had power in the back.
Really?
They did not.
Yeah,
At
there we
least
go.
I watched Doug DeMuro review one, and the one that he
Dougie
has, which
D.
was the what do they
Dougie
call it,
D.
the ACR or something like that. It was like the
Oh,
cool
yeah.
one. Even that had crank windows in the back, which
Yeah.
is kind of funny because like some of the sedans I've owned, if you roll down the front windows but not the backs, it sounds like you have an Apache helicopter in your ears. So
Yep.
you want to roll the backs down. So imagine you're driving that thing and you power down the front two windows. And unless you reach behind you and start cranking that thing down, you have just this absurd noise in your ear, and you can't do anything about it unless
Right.
you just manually crank the
I
windows
think
down.
the reason for that was because the Neons used to come as coupes, and then you didn't have power windows in the back 'cause it's a coupe.
Makes
I think
sense.
that
So
or
maybe
Dodge
they're not
is
even
just-
like wired up for it.
right. That or Dodge is just cheap.
They just didn't feel like designing a harness long enough to power those back there.
They're like, no
Who
one's gonna
knows?
buy this car. We don't have to make anything.
Some guy at the factory said, it's a Neon. Just make a manual in the back.
They'll think it's cool. Anyways,
quirk.
That's one of those. It's like a less cool Cobalt,
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
pretty much.
maybe like the Dart. Is the Dart too new? I feel like
Dart's
the Cobalt.
Dart's
new.
too
Dart
new.
re-
I feel like the
replaced
Cobalt sits halfway in between the Neon and the Dart because like the Neon feels like a '90s car.
every Dodge from that era is like 5 years late. That's just how I put it.
And that's kind of how the Cobalt was because, you know, we already talked about it, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but like 4-cylinder turbo. And it had a big ass wing if you got the SS.
Oh, yeah,
and
it did.
the taillights looked cool. The front looked cool, at least on the SS package. Had that car, I mean, it came out supercharged and kind of stupid in 2005, but it was good by
Still
2008
200
with the
horsepower.
turbo. Yeah.
Yeah, it was still
Had they
kinda fast.
made that turbo car like 5 years before and made it rear wheel drive, that would have won the tuner game. There would have been so many more like Cobalts being sold as opposed to like all the Subarus and Hondas and stuff that were coming out. I mean, had they just made that car sooner and rear drive, I
Yeah.
mean that.
Well, they
I
did
can
have
see
the-
it being
It was late
amazing.
to the party. You
Yeah,
know,
it really was.
The tuner thing was such a huge deal, and even as a front wheel drive car, I mean that.
Well,
I mean, there
'cause
were some great front wheel drive
They
cars.
did have the Saturn Sky. What was it? The GXP. That was just a rear-wheel drive version. Of that
Yeah,
drivetrain.
you had the Solstice GXP, and then the,
That's right. Saturn Sky like Redline or
yeah,
something.
Sky Redliner,
Yeah.
which was a rear-wheel drive with a 2.0 turbo. And fun fact, that 2.0 turbo was also in the Fisker Karma.
Really?
Was it really?
It's the same engine.
No way.
It's in the Fisker Karma.
Well, you see now we're gonna get way off topic here.
I
but
know.
I'm gonna go one more Fisker Karma thing. I heard that they were like gonna try and make a new electric car because people keep buying Fisker.
They're alive?
Yeah,
The name is.
yeah.
They're not. I don't.
It's
think they're
not the
making
Fisker
cars.
Karma anymore. So Heinrich
It's like
Fisker.
Fisker Auto Group.
So
or
Heinrich
something.
Fisker was the gentleman who designed the Fisker Karma and made the. He's actually the same guy who designed the BMW Z8, the best looking car
Didn't he
of the
also do,
modern
like,
era.
Maseratis and stuff. Yeah.
The Ghibli.
Could have been.
I thought it was like a Gran Turismo or something.
Could have.
You might be right. I mean,
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Some
Don't
Yeah,
don't
the
quote
Gran Turismo is a great looking car, by
Yeah,
the way.
it's
It
fantastic.
looks great, but wow, those are shit boxes.
Yeah, they are. It's a Maserati.
Yeah.
Come on.
Low expectations.
I can say that because I'm poor.
Yeah.
But like the Fisker, there was talks of a new one that had like 11,000 foot-pounds of torque, just because
Christ.
electric motors.
Right.
They're like, we can do this.
There's so
but we're
much that can be
going
done.
to.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyways.
they're not called Karma, and I think it's like the Karma Rivero,
Oh,
something like that.
have
I
heard
think
of
is that might be what it is.
Okay, so I knew that like it's like Karma Rivera or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I have heard of that. And honestly, I thought that they went under a few years ago. But if they're still around, that's
I'll
pretty
take a
cool.
note of it,
Someone's
and
always
we'll
going to be buying the name.
we'll do a
something.
callback
Yeah,
in the next
It's-
episode.
yeah.
I'll look it up just to make sure we'll do a
yeah.
callback next
All right,
episode.
all right. And then, yeah, before we get too far away now, Dan, you shared a little bit about your 2004 Honda Civic.
Yeah, little Honda
And-
Civic. It was Yeah, it was just,
I
it
love
was just
that
a
thing.
dumb car.
I
But
love
yeah,
that
at the same
car.
time, like I love it. Like it was my first car.
You had that, and I had my Cobalt, and we would go out to the high school parking lot and drag race them against
Yeah.
each other. And we're out there, and it was like just one little parking lot, and it'd be like a 20-second long race.
It's one little parking lot, and all you hear is.
The shitbox gang.
They were both pretty clean, though. Like,
No,
Oh yeah, they were nice.
clean
They were
shit
nice
boxes.
cars.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they
The
were
poop
in
box.
really good shape.
Yeah, it's a little cleaner.
The kitty litter box. It smells okay, but it's still a shit box.
Oh god, we need to just like run through the cars really fast so we don't have time to like.
Yeah, to go
bullshit.
through everything. After that, I got my second car, a 2008 BMW 128i.
Big jump.
Huge jump.
Yeah.
Going from a front wheel drive automatic shitbox to a decently kind of cool little rear wheel drive manual car. I mean, it's all based on the 3 Series. It shares like, I think 60% of its components are shared with the 3 Series. So that's going to be
Right.
powertrain and brakes and suspension is all 3 Series. But they just put it into a little coupe form.
Right.
After that car, I bought the MGB. I bought that at like the beginning of COVID, and I've just slowly been chipping away at that. And then the Civic died, and I needed like just a cheap, crappy car to get me through the winter. So my grandpa gave me his '99 Oldsmobile Cutlass GLS.
Fuck yeah.
It's another just piece of junk vehicle.
I love that car, and I remember when we were driving it, just like we were spinning around the lake in the thing, and all you could smell was just tire and power steering fluid, and the thing's
Yeah.
whining. The power steering is going.
Have I told you about what I do
for
for this thing? The rear of it sags, kind of like your Pontiac thing, but it's not because of the airbags. It's because I have literally like 5 years worth of used oil and used coolant and used brake fluid and power steering fluid. You know what I do? This car leaks everything. It leaks oil, leaks coolant, leaks power steering fluid. It burns all that crap. So what do? Well, when it's low on oil, I just dump used BMW oil into the Oldsmobile.
It'll live.
Oh yeah, it'll live great. It's living its best life.
Yeah.
What engine do you have in that?
It's 3100.
31. Okay, I thought it was the 36. Maybe the 36 is a little bit after that.
It's a
But that was-
3.1 liter
That was
V6.
the 31 that came in the Grand Am, I believe,
Was it?
of the 90s.
I was
You know,
looking
the,
up those
like, boxy
that
gold
same
ones.
that same engine also came in like some Mitsubishis, I think.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi's just worried about making TVs and
That's
batteries.
true.
Everything else is borrowed.
Well, 3100 is that's the same as the 2800 or not 2800, 2.8 liter whatever. Both
Yeah.
that came in like fucking third gen.
Yeah, the V6s are they're all just the same family. It's just a different displacement.
Garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, so Oldsmobile sharing all the fluids.
And that's it. That's the
When'd
cars
you
I've
get the
owned.
MG?
The MG I got, like I said,
I think it was in March.
yeah, beginning of COVID. So
March
it would have
or
been like
April.
March
Oh,
or
so that
April
wasn't that long
of
ago.
2020. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Which-
a little over a year ago, you brought it home and
Yeah, you've done a lot of work to that, haven't you?
Yeah, I
you
mean,
painted it in a tent. I remember that.
I painted it in a tent in
The
my
storm
front.
stole the tent.
Yeah.
One of my life goals right there is to
Yeah.
do a halfway decent paint job in a tent.
Well, I will say the paint, it's not perfect. I definitely should have done more prep work, but for the fact that I bought a $200 tent at Menards that fit the car and everything inside.
By tent, I
And-
assume you mean like a carport.
Yeah.
Okay,
It-
not
it
just
had,
like a
like,
camping.
metal-
zone.
No, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a carport. But I mean, for $200, I bought the tent. For like $300 I bought all my paint supplies.
Yeah,
It looks fantastic for a $500 paint job.
right.
Honestly, yes, it really does. And granted, you don't have to put very much paint on the car. There's hardly any metal surface.
Yeah.
but,
Right.
I
Small.
mean, yeah, it's a very small car, but it's honestly very cool.
It's small and there's no roof to paint.
There you
Exactly.
go.
And I've had the honor of helping him with various things, and we picked up. You got the engine with another guy, and then
Yeah, I picked that up with our buddy Jake.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
We drove out to Illinois and we threw it in the back seat of the Oldsmobile and it just sat there. I
course.
buckled it in. There's so much oil staining on the seats in the Oldsmobile now. And then same deal with the transmission. We picked that up.
we threw it in the back of my G8 on the way back from Road America in Wisconsin.
There you go.
And the guy we bought it from was a
Oh, he
douche.
was an enormous douche.
We went in there and he's like, I don't even know what he was like asking. I don't remember what he was asking for the
the
transmission, but you looked at your money and you were like literally like $10 short. The guy's like, "No, I won't do that."
Oh God!
And
He was like,
"Oh my God."
he was like, for that price, I might as well keep it. I've got 2 Miatas, and he did have 2 Miatas. There was one for him and one for his girlfriend. Well, and you know, he had a number on the side of it, and he had all these like racing decals.
Yeah, like autocross
so
or whatever.
I was like, oh, you know, this guy must race, and he's got like a big Road America sticker. And so I was like, oh yeah, you know, we were just up there, we watched Miata Cup at Road America. He's like, oh yeah, I've always kind of wanted to like see that. It was like he had no idea that Miata Cup was a thing, but
yeah, I mean, he had all these stickers on there, and he had no clue what anything was.
Yeah,
and then when Dalen put a screwdriver in the transmission, kind of tested that it could roll through every gear, and the guy was standing there. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Oh my God!
And it was just one of those weird scenarios.
yeah.
And I was just
I
like,
told him, I was just
grab
like,
the
I'm going through
transmission, bring it
every gear to make sure that
Right.
like it spins. He's like, oh, I wouldn't have thought it to do that. I was like, all right, well, tells me what you know.
Yeah.
home. Yeah.
Yep. I'll put this in my car.
Yep.
But then we go to leave, or I go to pay him, and I think, Corey, you had a little bit of money and you helped me because this guy was a douchebag. But
Yeah.
he had
needed to go inside.
Well, he had to go
grab
get
something.
change. He
Yeah.
had to go inside to get change. And he was like, I'm going to have you step outside of my garage so that I can close the door. I've had people steal things out of here. It's like, okay, Corey's G8 is worth more than both of your Miatas and your CRV
holding my
combined.
money.
Like,
What am I gonna do, run?
exactly.
Oh God!
And yeah, he literally like had money and like he's like, step outside my garage. When we like walk out in the driveway, he shuts the garage door, and we're just looking at
For
each other
5
like,
seconds.
We're like, what is this guy? Yeah, literally shut for 5 seconds. Garage door opens back up, and he comes out with change, and we're like, what? And it was a nice neighborhood. It was like,
What
what?
are you gonna steal? Oh my!
And then his dog got hair all over everything.
Yeah,
Jesus.
his dog exploded.
There was half a second I thought you said daughter. His daughter's got hair all over everything.
She's not a Subaru.
No.
She doesn't work in the factory.
No,
Damn,
not
okay.
a Subaru builder. Well, enough about that.
Yeah.
I'll go on to
go
the
ahead.
various vehicles I've owned. And I've owned not so much. All of my cars are very similar. But anyway, I started off with that.
Pontiacs.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Started off with that 2001 Bonneville, and the thing had not died yet. But I was like, I want a different car because I'm in high school, and you can't be a douchebag when you own a Bonneville. So instead, I bought a black Cobalt Sport. The thing looked cool. I didn't come with the wing installed, but I installed one. But it was the factory one, so it didn't look stupid.
Right.
But I put that on there, and I always kept the thing very clean. I waxed this thing literally every week. Like I took way more care of it than a Cobalt should have, and I owned it for 3 years and put like 30,000 miles on it. And honestly, I loved the car. Other than the fact that the seats were uncomfortable and the radio was kind of a turd, I enjoyed the car. It was very reliable to me, and for some reason, people in high school thought that it was more expensive than it was. Probably because it was black paint, and when you wax it a lot, the paint looked very deep. It looked beautiful, but yeah, for being $3,000 and having no thrills and no horsepower, people thought it was cool. I was like, awesome, whatever. In my junior year of high school, I was out at the racetrack, watching guys race, and a car goes by with "for sale" on the side, and it started in like 12th and finished 3rd, I think, that night. I was like, I'm going to buy that car. And I went down and I talked to the guy, and this was a Friday night, and kind of sat in the car, took a look around things or whatever. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I bought it the next day. That was when I started racing. Stripped the whole thing down. Car got repainted, got a new wrap on it, everything like that. It's had a lot of work done to it since then. We could tell that this guy did not get to 3rd legally. I mean, there was so much illegal crap on the car once we started going through the rule book.
That's racing for you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we put everything back, and we're now actually on track to win a championship with a legal car. So I'm very happy with where we're at with that, which is pretty amazing, honestly. I'm thrilled, but yeah. So
You're racing tomorrow, aren't you?
Yes. Final race for my regular season is tomorrow.
And is it close between you and number 2?
I have a 5-point lead.
Okay.
And the guy that I'm currently beating in points is the guy that owned this car before me. It was the guy I bought it from. And I'm now beating him with his car that he cheated with that I have legal.
You've now turned legal. That's funny.
Yeah, it's quite humorous. But yeah, anyway, that's what started my racing. And then senior year of high school, I decided I needed something cool. And so I was like, I need a Trans Am because I had a mullet, kind of. And anyway, I needed a Trans Am. And so
Nothing better than letting your mullet fly in the T-tops.
Exactly. I wanted a
That's what T-tops are for.
Right?
black T-top manual V8. Those were my requirements. And I found one in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a decent price. And I was like, I'm going to go buy that thing. And I went up there. And I get there, and I pull into the driveway, and I didn't know which one I was buying because this guy had 3. They were all identical. They were all black. They were all manual.
Another psychopath.
And I was like, this guy's cool.
He says you can look at all of them, but you can only go home with one.
I wish. No, he was getting rid of the crustiest one of them all. But, I was in high school, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I still have this car to this day, and I love it. But there's rust everywhere. Obviously, it came from Milwaukee. And it was literally right on the lake. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy lived like a block away from the lake. So,
Oh, yeah.
salt. I mean, everything. The car's roached, but the
Salty
paint's
air in the
beautiful.
summer and then salt on the road in the winter.
Yeah. The underside looks horrible, but if you were to walk around the car or sit in the thing, you would have no clue it has rust. It's all in the underbody. And the rest of the car is beautiful.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, half the car's fiberglass.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
is. So that helps. And the fiberglass is bubbling on the sail panel. They all do that.
Yeah.
However, my dash is not cracked, so that makes it worth twice as much as any other Trans Am, which is honestly amazing because they're all cracked.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It's all shit.
Yeah, it's impossible to find without a cracked dash. And I think what saved it is the fact that this car actually came from up north. Because any car down south, the dash is exploded. It looks like Death Valley.
Is that why people put carpet on the
Yes.
on the dash? Are you going to do that to yours?
Probably not,
No.
because mine is never really outside for more than a few hours.
Yeah.
Like maybe once a week. I don't put a lot of miles on it. Mm-hmm. Not that I want to keep the miles down. I mean, it's rusty. It's just, don't drive it all that often. There's always a car parked in front of it, whatever. But I love that car. And so that was my fun car. And I can share more stories about it later, but yeah, I still own that thing to this day. It's still kind of my fun car. And then, graduated high school, went to college. My first year of college, I was like, I'm going to get rid of this Cobalt. I'm going to go to something new. And so I was like, I'm going to get an Acura TL. I'm like, these things are cool. So I wanted a 2008 manual. That was like exactly
it
what
was
I
like
wanted.
the V6.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
It was a V6, and it had
Sedan, right?
It had VTEC, I think. It was like a 3.5 liter.
The last, actually, my little Civic was the very last Honda car to come without VTEC.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Every single one after that did.
Yeah. So this was a 2008 that I was looking at, and I looked at one that was over in Omaha, and I looked at one that was in Milwaukee, and there was one in Des Moines, and they're all like some hours away, and I'm dumb enough to travel for cars all the time, or maybe smart enough because I always come back. Aside from my Trans Am, I always come back with pretty decent vehicles. But I didn't end up buying one because I was sitting there in my coding class, scrolling through Facebook Marketplace as I do, and I see over in Chicago there's a silver G8, and it was only a V6, but I just needed a daily,
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna buy that thing. It had 50,000 miles on it,
Perfect.
and I was like, I'm buying that. And so I went over, and it had like a dent in the door, like a very tiny one, like a door ding. And other than that, the car was mint. And I was like, I'm buying this today. And I bought it, brought it back, absolutely loved it. And I was like, this is the coolest car ever. I just, wish it was a little bit faster. And, I did some burnouts with it. It had some old tires. And the V6 could actually do burnouts, and it could actually slide around. I was impressed by it.
Well, it's still rear-wheel drive, so you don't have any weight back there.
Yeah. I mean, they slide around quite a bit. I mean, I thought it was a really fun car, but after, it was like 6 months of owning it, I was like, yeah, I need the V8 version now. So I sold
Usually
it.
how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sold it and got a V8 car, salvage title, but got a GT, a black one, for the same price. So I lost no money. All I really did was kind of gain a salvage title and gain a little bit of miles. But for the V8 and the heated seats and everything.
So on the whole salvage title thing, I know
You
it's
call that a
common
gain?
thing. Yeah. I know that's like a common thing on those Australian cars that they'll get a salvage title because
It's impossible to get parts.
right.
You
So,
get one little knock in the door, and it's like boom,
Yeah.
salvage.
You get a fender bender, salvage. He's like,
Yep.
there's nothing wrong with
That's
it.
all. I mean, the front bumpers are $2,000 nowadays.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the
Wow.
point that if you own a GXP, you're not going to find a GXP bumper. You're like, it's honestly cheaper to import an HSV bumper over here and install it. That is cheaper.
Yeah.
Than finding a Pontiac
it's
G8
fucking
bumper.
insane.
It's so nuts.
Those
But
GXPs are like gold now.
yeah. But anyway, I drove this black GT for a year, and then last December went over to Canton, Ohio with Dalen, and I got this white GT, 60,000 miles on it, super clean. It was originally leased to somebody for a year, and then the guy I bought it from bought it, so it was like pretty much a one-owner, kind of two. So I'd be like the second, third-ish owner. But it was super clean, had all the options I want. It's white, that white hot color.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Sunroof, heated seats. It even had mud flaps from the factory. This guy ordered it with literally every single option you could except the GXP package.
Yeah.
But it is a fully loaded GT. He got everything on it. It's got like a Pontiac stamped floor mat and like in the trunk and everything and factory WeatherTech. And I was just like, I'm in love with this car and I don't plan on getting rid of it. And then also more recently, I was given this BMW 325i. It's an 89, it's cabriolet, and it came to me wrecked front end and bronze-it, which is ugly, but tan interior. And so Dalen and I stripped the whole thing down. We did some sanding, and I just got the thing painted. So I'm reassembling it right now. It is now Brilliant Rose, which is that bright red color, and it looks
I was gonna say
awesome.
black. Damn.
Nah, pretty much everything I've owned has been black up until
Oh, yeah,
this
you gotta
G8.
mix it up.
So I was like,
Need some color.
I need a red car.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention on mine. The Civic was white, the BMW is red, the MGB is blue, and the Oldsmobile is
blue.
tan.
Yeah. All right, Tony, on to you. List off some cars, man.
All right. So, obviously, I said I had an HHR. That was the one that was like my parents just gave it to me. It's like, that was the family hand-me-down.
I said, here's some junk.
Bullshit.
Don't wreck it.
Yeah. Well, actually, so
That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
So that car we got because my dad had a Jetta. He had one of the TDI 5-speed or 6-speed Jettas or whatever.
And it broke.
He rolled it off a bridge.
That's awesome.
I thought you were going to say, like, the engine blew up.
No, those
No, he
engines
said, I'm
last
going
forever.
off a bridge
No,
with it.
Going
So, like,
off a bridge.
It was wintertime.
It was like a railroad track bridge. He was doing that thing from Stand By Me.
Well, it was wintertime and it was icy, and like I guess I don't know the entire story because it sounds like he was going around a curve, but it was on a bridge. So that doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyways, rolled it off and it was in like a creek, so it wasn't like full of water, but it was like totaled that thing. And then so we have our business, we have the bar. So my dad's like, "Fuck it, we'll get one of these HHRs because it's a good delivery vehicle." Turns out it's not even good at that. It was horrible. So that became like okay, kids, here's your shit car to drive. After that, I got a 07 WRX, which still have that, and it's fantastic. Everyone complains about head gasket issues and all that, but mine got 190 on it, and like I don't want to say beaten because I don't really like drive it like a douchebag, but it's owned by a kid, so like
Kid stuff happened.
neglected. Let's say that. I don't take very good care of it. More of like it just sits. But I have that, and it was through college and everything. That was the daily driver. When I went to college, which I went to college to restore old cars. I know you know that, but so freshman year is the ambitious project thing. I bought a CJ2A Jeep. And it was going to get a 5-liter small block Chevy.
You've never told me about this.
I've never told you that?
No, you've never.
Oh, this thing was a piece of shit. It was 500.
I knew that by the name Jeep.
Yeah. It was $500 and it was mostly just rust. Yeah. And
That's
like,
awesome.
Like it quickly occurred to me that I could just buy one that's like nice and running and driving for way cheaper than it costs to have this one become that. So I'm like, okay, this is going to work. So I traded that to a buddy of mine for a 69 3-door Suburban, which was also a piece of shit. But it ran...
Still a good trade, though. That's pretty cool.
Still
Yeah,
a
you went
good
from a
trade.
Jeep to a Bourbon. It just sounds like a win to me.
Because the Suburban ran and drove. It was just a pile of shit. And rusty. Holy shit, was it rusty.
Yeah.
But It was so rusty that if you went through any mud, the rear windows you couldn't see through because it'd splash the mud up on them. But sold that. I got a 95 Camaro, so another 4th gen. And it was an LT1 6-speed. I fucking loved it. It was a
Great
convertible.
combo.
Yeah, fantastic combo. It was a convertible. That was the only problem I had with it. But it's still fun in the summer. You put the top down and everything. And it had the carpet on the dash.
Oh,
it had
yeah.
the dash cover on it.
Yeah.
Which, in the interior on this thing was mint. There was nothing wrong with it. Fantastic beater car for $3,000. Oh, it had a dent in the rear quarter, but we had a new quarter put on it because it came with that. And then the problem I have with the carpet, there's nothing holding it down. So whenever you would do a burnout or a drift or anything, it'd fly off the
Fly
car.
at you, yeah.
Yeah. Major pain in the ass. I sold that when I left college and was going back home just because I didn't want to deal with it. But then from there, I got into motorcycles. So I had my Honda CB300F, which is the first one I had, just a learner bike. And then now I've got a 2019 Indian Scout Bobber with a 1200.
That's pretty sweet.
It's pretty fucking cool. You've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
like
a
it.
sweet bike.
Yeah. Which, it's not a big bike, but it's big enough that it's comfortable to ride, and it'll do 130. Which,
Right.
On a bike where you're not covered is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Feels a lot faster.
Right.
And then I just bought a 1985 Pontiac Trans Am. Yeah. Blue.
Oh, yeah.
This is the best thing.
Blue.
It went from a red
T-tops.
Camaro to a blue T-top Firebird.
There you go.
Amazing.
Moving up in the world.
Right. But then,
The Firebirds are better than the Camaros.
yes, I like the pop-up headlights.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But then there was one point when I was at school, I had two of my dad's cars, which were a 1962 Morgan Plus 4, which turns out there's only 114 of this model with the 109E
Really?
Ford motor.
Uh-huh. A lot of them got like
They got,
BMW motors.
I think it was like a Triumph.
Oh, it
motor.
was a Triumph. Okay.
Yeah, I think actually that TR3 that we have,
Yeah.
it's basically the same thing for drivetrain.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
They're horrible. And the Ford motor is even worse.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Is it like a Ford Europe motor, or is it like a Ford US?
So they came in Ford consoles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is, but I
Yeah,
know it's some
yeah.
shitty car
It's-
from Ford Europe.
If you look it up, it's like the ugliest fucking sedan. And it's so the engine called 109E, and I think they're 60 horsepower.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
not great.
No, it's not.
I'm thinking of a different Morgan then, one that came with the BMW V8, because that's
Yeah,
That
okay.
would be the
Tom's.
Morgan
Yes.
Arrow.
Yes.
the Morgan Arrow. Yeah, okay.
The Arrows, because the Arrows are badass and all aluminum.
Yep.
But I had the Morgan, and I had my dad's 63 Vet. So at one point at school, I had a red motorcycle, a red Camaro, a red Morgan, a red Corvette, and my gray Subaru. It's everything red.
Which one had the least amount of rust?
Corvette.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because that one was restored in the 80s. So I don't know about the frame, to be honest, but that one's
Well, it's also a Corvette.
yeah,
It's not really easy to rust.
yeah. The body has no rust. I
Yeah,
can guarantee
yeah.
you that. But I don't know about the frame. But Subaru's a California car, so it's only got a couple of spots. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And the Morgan, you're not worried about rust, more as rot, which it has a lot.
Oh, does it really? Oh,
Yes.
wood floors?
Wood everything.
Wood everything.
Wood floor. The body is basically just a wood buck with steel around it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The shocks, it's got those weird knee action shocks. I don't know what you're supposed
Oh,
to
is it
call
the
them.
cantilevered ones where it's like
Yeah.
there's like arms?
There's like a box with a spring with like hydraulic fluid and shit in there. And it's got an arm that comes out. And when it goes up, it pushes the spring down.
Okay.
Yeah. So those
MGB's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
because I remember you had a pretty weird system.
They're dumb.
it's dumb
They're
because
so dumb.
it's dumb because it's British. So it's 30s technology in the 60s.
That's how the
70s.
British are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
There's coilover kits for the MGBs, and I've thought about it because they're so dumb.
just get a
It'd probably be a lot easier. Your suspension setup was not exactly fun to put
No,
together.
I can't even.
I wouldn't want to do it again.
I don't even know how I would get that spring off.
You just get hurt by it. That's all you do.
Yeah, because it's
It's a letter E.
I mean, the
Yeah.
spring, the coils are so small that I could not fit a spring compressor in there.
right.
So what do I do?
Well,
I tried ratchet straps.
is the coil-
but the spring itself is so short that even if I maxed out a ratchet strap, I couldn't get it to compress at all.
Because it's solid rear axle, right?
This is on the
no,
fronts.
so these are on the fronts.
Oh.
And
so
it was like two plates. You had like two like wishbone style plates.
Yeah.
That sat, horizontally, and the spring sat in between, but it was like almost tied between the two. I don't know whether that was just under the spring's load was holding them there or whatever, but we undid like the control arm and the tie rod and everything like that, and it opened up kind of like an accordion, but the spring stayed in place. Like I feel like by the time, and it was still under load like on the backside because the spring was bent at probably a 60-degree angle. I feel like by the time you get that spring out, somebody's gonna lose a limb.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
no,
it's-
it was super sketchy.
I was gonna say on the old Chevys where it's a double wishbone, I just fucking put a jack under the wishbone or under the A arm, and then unhook the tie rod, knock it loose, and then just slowly let down the jack.
That's what we did to actually get it back together, because when that shot down, I was like, uh-oh, this is
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
be bad.
we're not gonna be able to lift this.
So
that kind of deal.
I had
There were
Corey
two
and
of us-
Jake
yeah, two of us were leaning.
they would lay on top of the fender to have weight
Right.
while I jacked that arm up, and then finally everything got together, and I was like, right, in, boom,
And it wasn't a
go.
matter of laying on the fender. Like we were pushing down
Yeah.
on the car
Oh
while he
my
was jacking it
Lord.
up, and he was sitting there like his face was like 8 inches from the spring because he's trying to put the bolt like
I was wearing safety glasses though, so
that'll help a lot.
high-rated safety
So-
glasses.
That 56 Chevy that we have at work, the wagon,
Mm-hmm.
I was putting springs in that, and when it was on the lift, you would lift the spring up, but it would lift the car off of the lift before the spring would get to where it needs to be.
What is it, a 900-pound spring?
I don't know what the fuck it is for a weight. Car probably weighs 3,500 pounds. It's probably like a 1,500-pound spring. They're
I've always 3,500 pounds. You're probably
Oh,
looking
it's
at like
900,
a probably
makes
looking at like a
sense.
500-pound spring then
yeah,
probably.
Still, they're fucking sketchy.
Just a
I
lot.
always hate doing it. Yeah, but back to the cantilever, the knee action shock on the Morgan. It's mounted to wood. You can see where this is going.
And as it rots over the years, you're like, am I going to die on my way to work today?
Well, and if there's anywhere that water's going to sit,
Yeah.
it's going to be between the
It's in that perch,
steel
yeah.
and the. Well, there's no perch. It's just bolted right to the wall.
Oh my
So
God.
that's where it rots out. So I got to get closer to the mic.
Yeah.
When you hit a bump, because it still has leaf springs. When you hit a bump, the fucking axle will move, and the springs just kind of like go with. They don't do anything.
What can you do about the rot? Is there anything you can do, or is the car just done?
You take the body off and
Yeah.
just slowly make your way to. You have to like replace the piece of wood.
Yeah.
It like, and it's
That's
only.
expensive nowadays.
Oh yeah, lumber prices.
Yeah.
I can
Right.
scrap the car for more than it's worth. It
Start putting PVC pipe in for the wood.
particle board, some styrofoam or some bullshit.
Yeah, just hardboard and just wonder,
Yeah.
am I going to get killed while putting this back together? And the spring's under load.
Well, all you have to do really is you just take that spring off and just screw a piece of wood over it, and then just put the thing back on.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you just ignore it. That's what I do.
it'll be fine.
The body. They said it's 12 bolts to take the body off, which doesn't seem
That's
bad.
it?
That's it.
Are they? Where are they?
Like
though?
probably
I
massive
don't
carriage
know.
bolts just
Probably.
through the frame.
It's British. They're probably wood screws. Like a number 10 wood screw.
It's this ridiculous size that's hard to find, and they're like the one-time use aluminum crush screws.
They're-
Or
Don't even get me started on Whitworth. You know what Whitworth bolts are? You know what Whitworths are?
think so.
They used them on British cars way back when, and it's not metric. It's not standard.
yeah. I
Metric
remember
and standard
this.
bolts have a 60-degree thread pitch. We learned this in machining class, and it's bullshit and boring. This Whitworths have a 55, and they're rounded. Theoretically, it's a better thread, but it takes like 10 times as long to make them. So you just can't. No one fucking makes Whitworths bolts.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you have one, you're just kind of fucked.
When I started putting stuff back together on the MGB, I just had this bucket of bolts. I was like, all right, some of these have to fit. Like,
And we were just
I was like,
sending random stuff there.
manufacturers are smart enough that they kind of tend to make like,
was
this will work, right?
Was this when you were trying to put your headlights in?
This was the headlights, the doors. I mean, I'll get a bolt and it's the correct size. But for some reason, on some things, they were like, yes, we'll use fine pitch, and on others, we'll use standard.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Why are we using different thread pitches? Why are we using such similar sizes? Like, what?
So there's an engineer out there who said this one has to be fine thread. Like it's
There's
just
an engineer
stronger.
out there that just hates mechanics, and he was like, "Wow, I'm gonna make this car, and I don't ever have to work on it, but I hate everybody that does have to work on it. Here's a genius idea." And they start putting weird things together where it's like metric threads, but it uses like an SAE head.
That's pretty much Whitworth right there.
Well, so moral of the story is, if you work on a car and you complain about it and it's not British, don't complain.
Right. It gets worse.
Yeah.
Okay. British gets a lot of like shit.
Yeah.
Imagine a French car. Like
I don't even know.
I think I've
don't
told
even
you
wanna
this. We
get
have
into this.
trucks that come into work that have Renault engines.
Yeah.
And apparently there's a Renault specialist here in town because there was like somehow the input shaft that is actually, it runs out of the like the shifter linkage. I think it comes directly out of the transmission and into the engine or vice versa. I don't exactly remember because none of us put it back together, but somehow this thing just snapped and it broke. And a place in town was actually able to look at it, kind of figure it out, fabricate it in like a couple hours, and they put the thing together so that we had like a new shaft. And everyone at work was like, "Yeah, I'm not installing this because it's a Mack cab over, and it's just like impossible to work on, and it's garbage that we're not used to working on." There's some specialist in town that's like, "Oh yeah, I got that," and he came out to work and he had this thing, in and the engine and transmission back together and the truck running in like 2 or 3 hours. We're just like,
Jesus.
"All right, bud, do your thing." We probably paid him way too much for it. I don't know.
Way back when we're in my town in Mount Vernon, there was someone there who was selling a Lacar.
Those are
It's a
so
Renault
cool.
Lacar. It's
Same with the Twingo.
It's
A Twingo? What the hell is
the Twingo. Oh, you've seen
It's
it.
such a
You've
cool
seen.
car.
I know.
You've
I've
seen me.
It was like
I'm trying to,
the predecessor to the Clio, essentially, wasn't it?
No, the Twingo is the one with the dumb headlights.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of the car that the Clio replaced because they kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, it might be.
They just
yeah.
they just look stupid and they're a hatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Twingo.
I
What
will-
about the Fiat Multipla?
Oh,
Uh,
gee. Is
that
that the one
car's-
that looks like it got punched in the face? Yeah.
It's got like the windshield
Yeah.
stops and then it just extends. It's like they had one guy design the body and another guy like designed like the glass, and they're like,
That
"How do
right
we put these
there-
together?"
That right there is like if you take a car from Automation and you're like, fuck it, we'll sell it.
What
Yeah.
it looks like is like a Grand Theft Auto game, like something didn't spawn correctly. Like you have like a sedan with like a hatch on top of it.
It's
Just
like,
like
a character
I
creation.
want to know,
where
is
you're
that like a fog lamp? Is it a turn signal? What is that? What light is that?
I have no idea. It could be daytime running light. I mean,
It could be, but why the hell is it all the way up there? Like,
It's
what
all, like, up
benefit?
by
Like,
the
what's
windshield.
the purpose of that?
oh my.
it's so
Lord.
funny though. It's almost as if like they just hit like randomized character and that's just what it came with. Especially that one that you're showing me because it's in just a disgusting yellow color.
Oh yeah. You know, I like how we never really got any farther than the Nissan 400Z.
Oh yeah, as far as new car news goes,
We're back
Yeah,
to
'cause I-
talking about
'cause I
stupid
wanna-
French cars. And
don't worry because
Italian
I'll
cars.
cut this up and I'll make it like actually like chronological.
Take out
Right.
some of the dead details and stuff.
It's gonna take you a while. To
I
do
know.
that.
Yeah, whatever. I wanted to talk Countach.
Oh
the
yeah.
new
Yeah.
Countach. I don't know what we have to say. Honestly, I know that we could all form our own opinion, but I'm just going to be upfront and honest that none of us can afford that. So
Oh.
whatever we say doesn't really matter.
Hell no.
Right.
I think it's really cool. I hope that the car is actually insanely cool when it comes out because the Countach, in my opinion, is one of the greatest cars of all time. Mm-hmm. And do you guys know the famous story of the Countach of how that rear wing was illegal in Europe because of like pedestrian safety or whatever?
Didn't they have to like
And-
ship
no,
it?
wait, hold on. So the law stated that parts like that could not be installed within the factory.
Right.
They installed them in the parking lot.
There we go.
Yeah, that's
Hell yeah.
all they had to do to get by it.
Hell yeah.
So instead, they're like, what if we just bolted a big-ass fiberglass surfboard just outside?
Well, you ever see the ones where they do that, but it's spoiler on the hood?
Yeah, I have seen the hood wings. Like, that is...
Because they had really bad front aerodynamic problems, front lift.
Yeah, well, the thing is that apparently every time they made all these additions to the Countach, because the Countach, they ran for like, what, 15 years?
They ran a long time.
A very long time.
And so they were like making these things, and they came out as kind of just like a weird box, and they were like, oh, let's add this cool thing back here, and then we're going to add this big wing, and then we're going to add a wing on the front, and they kept adding all these things, and every time they added stuff, the performance got worse. The car continually got worse as it went, but they continued to do it because it's Lamborghini. You're buying the looks, not the performance. If you want performance, you go with Ferrari. And so they were just like, this looks cool. I'm buying it. And then like, oh, the car needs something more. Like, you're telling me your Countach doesn't already stand out? You need a wing on it too? Like, they just kept going, and it got crazy and crazy. And apparently it was generating so much front lift that they had to install a wing on the front. And at least they figured that out. I mean, Mercedes didn't. They did like 3 backflips at Le Mans in a matter of like 3 years.
Well, do you know who the I don't know if it was the designer or like an engineer or someone, but you know who the one that was putting all the vents and stuff on the Lamborghinis was? It was the Koenigsegg. The guy who Christian von Koenigsegg.
Christian? It was him.
Yeah.
He was installing
Really?
the vents?
He was the one that he worked at Lamborghini, and he was the one who's like, yeah, we need vents. And
No shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because the early ones were like very like plain looking.
Yeah. And
Well,
it
who
just kept
designed the
getting
original? Was it
crazier.
like a Bertone? Was it
Probably.
Is either them or like Ital Design or Giugiaro Design or whatever? Now I'm curious.
It doesn't matter. They all sound like pizzas.
Yeah, it was
They all
Bertone.
sound like pizzas.
Do they
That's-
not?
Bertone.
though?
Yeah.
Bertone.
Yeah,
Man,
can
now
I
I
get
want-
the
now I want
Bertone
pizza.
pepperoni?
Dude, if I went to Walmart and saw a Bertone pizza, I'd fucking buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Is
sounds,
this your new $1 million idea? Is
I
just
do need
make
to write-
frozen pizzas, but they just have names of Italian car designers?
that. I think I could make money
The
doing
Enzo Supreme.
that. Enzo Supreme. I'd get sued for that shit. Oh man, I can't put any Ferrari. Okay, it'd be better than a German name. I gotta swallow this.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be better than a German name because it'd be like a 325i for a pizza, or like a i8
The E30 pizza. It just comes with oil absolutely everywhere.
710 fluid.
710 fluid.
God.
It wouldn't be a pizza though. It'd be like a pretzel and a beer.
850
Yeah.
CSI
A
pizza.
schnitzel.
A schnitzel.
A schnitzel.
The AC Schnitzel. It's a joke on AC Schnitzer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. What's the little? We were talking about micro cars. The Messerschmitt.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Messerschmitt.
So Messerschmitt,
There you go. That's your $1 million
There we
idea.
go.
It's like
Messerschmitt,
an airplane cockpit with
yeah.
wheels.
Well,
Yeah.
they went from making like ridiculous planes. They made like the Messerschmitt 410. Made the
Didn't BMW make
I
planes?
think Messerschmitt. Also
I think they made
the,
engines for planes.
because the logo was an airplane.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have said. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true or not,
The
but I've
BMW
heard
logo?
that. Yeah.
The BMW logo is not a airplane rondelle. Actually, it's the flag of Bavaria.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, people always say like it's an airplane
Mm-hmm.
rondelle, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah,
one of those
it does
bullshit
kind of look
flags.
like
It
a
looks
propeller
like that.
spinning, but it's also the colors of the Bavarian
It's
flag,
the
which is
Bavarian
what.
flag, just with like a ring around it. And I'm honestly amazed that BMW has not changed their logo in a very long time, because I feel like a lot of companies have changed their logo.
so
I mean,
they-
look at
they-
K backwards N.
KM
Yeah, it just
stands for
Kia's-
Korean Motors.
Oh, I thought you were talking about K&N air
Oh
filters.
no.
No,
Have you seen the new
Kia's
Kia logo?
New logo is
No.
like K backwards N.
It's weird.
And I ended
It
up
was like
behind a Kia
GM's
Carnival.
changing their logo too.
Yeah, and it's all lowercase, and it looks
Yeah.
like Comic Sans. Like
I
what?
don't-
Yeah, there's this Comic Sans on like this light blue background. It looks like they stole it straight from like.
This is the new
Aquafina.
Kia logo.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, I read it as K backwards N.
Yeah. BMW changed their logo, not the logo that's actually going on their cars. That's going to stay the same. They changed their logo for like stationary paperwork and their website. I'll show it to you here.
Was this recent?
Yeah, it was within the past year. This is just what comes up on their website.
Oh yeah, it's like just kind of.
Oh.
it's like a
little
cleaner,
bit
simpler
different.
design. Yeah, but
Change with the
it's
times.
it's all the same.
Yeah, those Messerschmitt like mini cars are so cool. It was just like this weird era in Europe where you had like refrigerator companies and airplane companies and stuff just all trying to get their slice of the market.
Right.
And so they were making just these tiny cars that you could operate under a motorcycle license because it was way cheaper and way easier.
Because everyone was broke after the war.
Yeah, I mean, you could afford that.
Everything was shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine riding
Everything
around?
was shit.
Could you imagine riding around one of those little like Messerschmitts and you're just hitting craters and stuff in the road, it's bouncing. You just roll the thing, keep going.
You have to drive down into where a bomb like blew up, and you have to drive back up.
I can't
vacation
imagine
through
hitting,
Dresden.
Yeah.
I can't imagine hitting like a small stone in one of those.
Oh,
let
yeah.
alone like a fucking pop.
I imagine those
bomb.
things ride like those like 3-wheeled or 4-wheeled like bicycle things that you see people race where you're essentially laying down in like what are those like fiberglass cockpits? They're just weird laying down bicycle races. It probably handles like one of those. I mean,
Yeah.
granted
like,
a little bit quicker.
If you go
Reliant
to
Robin.
the the Reliant,
I was hoping someone would hear that. Reliant Robin, where they have
Tie
like
all
one
of
wheel
this-
in the front and you just fucking roll it over.
oh yeah,
thank
the
you,
pigeon.
Britain.
Yes.
If you go to the Lane Motor Museum, they have so many microcars. It's ridiculous. There were so many microcars there that I've just never even heard of, and it's just a whole new world.
That is in Tennessee.
Yep, it's in Nashville.
Okay, I need to go to that.
I feel like we need to start.
Yeah, we
wrapping
should
this
probably
up.
wrap this up. I think we're good.
Also, I don't think we need an outro. I think we can just like
Cut
end
it.
it.
All right.
Like,
Well, that's a
right
show.
on. Messerschmitt-
Thanks for listening. Messerschmitt, whatever.
Messerschmitt.
Yeah.
Messerschmitt's a good word to end it on.
That is.
Or just completely cut it out mid-sentence.